Welcome back, Midnight Readers. We are going to jump right back into Royally Surprised. But first, a little recap of what happened in the beginning on Tuesday. Stella is an ordinary girl living in an ordinary town. The only difference is her town, along with several other surrounding ones, are still ruled by a king. They have very old school ways when it comes to the progression of the crown. The prince's father had passed away a couple years ago, and the prince has yet to fulfill his duty of stepping up and assuming the crown. However, the one stipulation in order to do so is that he must take a bride first. So, we've learned that he had members of his guard placed all around the surrounding towns, scouting out potential women. Once the few best candidates were selected, he then went and watched each one for a time being. He finally narrowed it down, and his final selection was Stella. He brings her back. She's kind of in shock, but for her it's the norm because that's how it's always been in that little part of the world, even though it's modern day. So she goes with it. She's taken back because she doesn't really know what to expect, or if she is really even the right person or material to be in this position. And she is doing the best she can, but there's been a series of misunderstandings or miscommunications between her and the prince. And she's feeling bad because she's thinking she's been putting off this whole demeanor or attitude, sort of kind of making him think that she doesn't like him, but that's not the case. She thinks he's handsome. She thinks he's a good guy and kind of charming, but she also knows that he's been through a lot and he's quite guarded. And he's actually, she's kind of having to break through this wall, if you will, to get to know the real him. And the fact that something is wrong currently is making it all that much harder. However, there's a curveball thrown in there. Her old best friend, who happened to be a guy as well, from her teenage years, has shown back up. He was not only good friends with her, but her whole family. And she was friends with his. They grew up together. And yeah, he's shown up right as her and the prince had just got on the same page. And now the prince is acting differently again. So this old best friend is definitely a curveball. He seems like just a friend, not anything more, but I think the prince may think he may be something more. So that's what we're going to find out, what's actually going on right now. That's where we are. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 5. Although it was not more than 30 minutes before Dee returned, it felt like forever, especially considering he had left hours ago. While we were at the gravesite, Dee had told me the story of how the unique, yet beautiful burgundy and black flowers had found their way here. They were clearly not native flowers. He explained that the infamous alchemist Birkenstoll had created these hybrid flowers along with several other items ranging from soothing salves to calming aromas as a gift for the king. He had taught his apprentice how to create them as well, in the event that the originals didn't survive the lengthy trip to the king. They did survive. However, the king wanted more. He wanted to see if he could plant them and grow them on his own. The king and the apprentice worked together for months until they were successful. Tragically, Birkenstoll had an accident in the lab and perished. Having no one to return to, the apprentice chose to stay in town. With a little assistance from the king, he ended up opening his own flower and plant shop, eventually becoming the town botanist. When the king offered to help him start the shop, the king had one demand before handing over the funding. He made the apprentice swear he would always have the burgundy and black flowers in his shop, in case the king ever wanted or needed more. A deal was struck, and to this day, that is the only shop in town that has those truly remarkable flowers. The botanist's shop is where I requested that Dee visit today. I'm aware that it's a long shot. However, the shop used to sell the flowers both potted and as small bushes ready to be planted. I have Dee attempting to find one of each. My hopes are that the small potted one can stay here in the castle with Eddie, and, somehow, I can talk Eddie into going to plant the bush with me by his father's grave tomorrow. I'm hoping it'll make him feel better, or, at least, connected in a sense, being able to do this little gesture as a tribute to his father. Dee came in with a smile plastered across his face. He said something to two of the guards before pointing back out the way he had come from. "Well, what happened?" I questioned, not able to take the anticipation any longer. "We got them," he exclaimed. "Good work! Okay, time to get everyone on board with the plan." He nodded. "Okay, I'll go grab Jasper." "Perfect. I'll go grab Belinda." With that, we hurried off in our separate directions. Once back in my room, I explained to Belinda how we had visited the king's grave and saw the stunning flowers. I noticed the dates on the headstone. Tomorrow's the anniversary of the king's passing, correct? I asked. It is, she replied, looking shocked. And please don't take this as me speaking ill of him, but from what I've witnessed, Eddie's been fairly touchy, moody even, the last couple of days. I gather, based on what both you and Jasper have told me, this is quite out of character for him. At first, I thought that I was at fault considering our rocky start, but then realized he probably doesn't even care enough about me to be getting so worked up over misunderstandings with me yet. Seeing the king's grave, I realized that is most likely the root of what's bothering him. I wish he would have heard you say all that, Belinda muttered with a strange look on her face. What? I asked, shocked by her words. It's just that you are only partially correct. The king's passing was extremely hard on him, as they had been very close. Now, with his mother across seas and unable to return for the anniversary of the king's passing, this will be his first one that he has to endure alone. So yes, that has been bothering him a great deal, and yes, adding to his poor mood. However, you're wrong about him not caring about you. You should have seen him the morning after you two stayed up all night talking. He had been as giddy as a child on Christmas. I had actually never seen him like that before. And then, just this morning, he instructed Jasper and me to not allow anyone to disturb him whatsoever today, aside from you. With that, she put her hand over her mouth. I probably shouldn't have disclosed all that, she whispered. Don't worry. I promise not to say a word. I do have a question, however. If all that's true, why is he being so cold and avoiding me? Ah, yes, that. I can't say for sure, but it seems that it all started when he realized that you and Sir Dimitri knew each other, and... With that she paused. And? I urged. And are pretty close. I furrowed my brow questioningly. I'm not sure I follow. The prince seems to be hesitant to proceed forward with you, seeing that you and Sir Dimitri have a past. It's obvious Sir Dimitri still cares for you very much, and dare I say, the prince even seems a touch jealous, she clarified. I couldn't help but laugh. You're telling me that that was what all this was about? Not what was happening between the prince and myself? Well, I'm sure all of that played a small role in it as well. I couldn't help but wonder exactly how much of what Belinda had just shared was actually correct. I see. If the prince had suspicions about Dimitri and myself, I wish he would have just asked. I could have told him that Dimitri and I were friends. He's always been like a big brother to me. In fact, he was the root of all my tomboy ways. He was the one who taught me archery, to fish, to whittle wood, and so much more. Like the big brother I never had, I explained. That's a relief. I raised my brow. Please don't tell him, but I find Sir Dimitri extremely handsome, she said, blushing. Your secret is safe with me, I laughed. Thank you. Okay, now about the subject at hand. The reason why I called you here is that we need your help. Dimitri told me the story of the king's beloved flowers, and the botanist who still owns a shop in town. Well, earlier today, I sent Dimitri to town to see if he could purchase some of those flowers. He just returned and was successful. I would like Eddie to wake up to the potted ones accompanied by a note that I'll write shortly. It'll say something along the lines of, I know it may be a hard day for you, but you're not alone. I'm hoping you'll be able to get this into his room for me? Yes, of course. But may I say something? Oh no, have I overstepped? Was she going to tell me that this was an awful idea? I can't help but feel a bit anxious. Sure. He made a very good choice with you. He's lucky to have you. Wait, you do have feelings for him. For the prince, right? I mean, I'm assuming you do based on everything you're doing for him, and the fact that you keep trying to go to him, even when he stubbornly tries to pull away, she said, looking at me questioningly. I do, I reassured her. Just then, there's a knock on the door. Dimitri and Jasper entered. Okay, we've got the bush and garden tools in place, ready to be planted, Dimitri reported, seeming proud of himself. Perfect. Thank you both for getting that ready. I glanced over to Belinda, only to discover a look of confusion plastered on her face. Oh, yes. We also purchased a small flower bush for Eddie to plant in his father's honor tomorrow. A smile washed over her face. You are absolutely amazing, you know that? If I liked women, I'd choose you too. Smart girl, Dimitri said under his breath before going to the restroom to wash his hands. Belinda and I exchanged confused looks. Had he meant it? In a friend sort of way? He had, right? Jasper then cleared his throat, breaking the silence. We were discussing how to get him up to his father's grave without suspecting anything. He let it be known, a little bit ago, that he wanted to visit it alone tomorrow. Between you and me, I think it's because he doesn't want anyone to seem upset. He feels that's a sign of weakness. Jasper explained. Just as Jasper finished, Dimitri picked up. So, we're throwing around scenarios on how to get him up there with you. He obviously needs you to be by his side tomorrow. We've come up with the story that you went on a hike solo and haven't returned, so we all need to go search for you. Or that you text that you hurt your ankle but weren't sure where you were in the trails. Something along those lines. What do you guys think? It sounds good. Now, we just need to put our heads together to get the perfect story. Chapter 6. The next morning came in no time, and instead of feeling well-rested, it felt as though a weight were on my chest. I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't have them lie to Eddie to trick him into going up there to meet me just because I thought it was best for him. What did I know? Perhaps he did need to be alone, to work through his emotions. If he truly didn't want me up there, well, that was his prerogative, and I needed to respect that. The flowers would have to be enough to let him know that I cared. When Belinda arrived, I informed her of the change of plans. Instead, can you please let him know that I'll be waiting for him at the bench that overlooks the stream off the main trail, if he'd like to join me? If you're sure you think that's best. I must say that, although I admire your honesty, the other plan might be a better bet for today. He wouldn't even let me in to bring him his breakfast this morning. Which was a first. He has never had his door locked before. I was, however, able to sneak the flowers and note in before he woke up, she explained. Well, hopefully they weren't the cause of the lockdown. I know he most likely won't come if we simply ask him to, but lying to or tricking him just doesn't feel right. I want him to know that he can trust me. Can you please let Dimitri and Jasper know? I haven't seen either of them anywhere this morning. She sighed. Okay, I'll give it a try. Thanks. I'm going to start heading out now. Okay, I'll go tell him now, so hopefully he doesn't have you waiting too long. She smiled, attempting to mask the doubt written all over her face. It was a beautiful day. The birds chirped, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves as I sat there listening to the song of the stream. I checked the time to realize that half an hour had already gone by. I wondered if I had made the right decision. Should I have just gone along with the story the guys had concocted? Was he really more likely to come thinking I was hurt or lost? Or would he have just sent the guards? This next stretch of time, as I continued to wait, seemed to drudge on for what felt like forever. It felt as though close to an hour had gone by. However, I was surprised to discover it had only been 20 minutes. 10 more minutes came and went, and I had officially been waiting for an hour. I was fairly certain Eddie was not, in fact, going to be gracing me with his presence. So, I decided to wander along the stream a bit. I came to a large tree with a swing tied to it. I gave it a tug, not sure how long it had been up here. It felt sturdy enough, so I climbed on. The breeze ruffled my hair, and butterflies danced in my stomach as I swung back and forth over the stream. Realizing I had now been waiting an hour and a half, I allowed the swing to slowly come to a stop. There you are you okay? A concerned voice rang out from behind me. I hopped up startled. Yes, I'm fine, I said, spinning around to come face to face with Eddie. The look on his face was a mixture of worry and sadness, yet, somehow, he still managed to look handsome. Good, he said, sighing and looking to the ground. I'm guessing Belinda wasn't the one to talk to you? No, she was. Well, just after Dimitri and Jasper did. They had given me a totally different rendition of the story. I came because I didn't know which one was the truth. Although I assumed it was Belinda's version, I decided it was best to come and make sure you were okay for myself, he explained. I walked closer, closing the space between us. I'm sorry. I asked Belinda to find them. I should have found them myself and told them not to do it, I said, looking down, unable to mask my embarrassment. I was surprised when he gently tilted my chin up so that I was looking at him. You misunderstood. I figured something was wrong when my staff and cousin all felt the need to come to me with varying stories, all of which were trying to get me to come to you. I apologize if I've upset you. Please understand that this is just a hard time for me. I promise you, I do. I do understand. Like I said, I'm sorry for not stopping them personally. I shouldn't have put it on Belinda to find them and do it. I know you don't need anything extra to deal with right now. I just want to let you know that I'm here for you if you should want or need me. Are you? He said with a scoff, turning away. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Just forget it. I don't think so. I believe in working through problems that arise, even if that means arguing it out. If you're looking for a passive girl, you chose the wrong one. Yeah, maybe I did. Ouch. Okay, well, on that note, hope you enjoy the flowers. Have a wonderful day, I said bitterly, turning to leave. I was immediately stopped by his firm grasp on my arm. I froze as he looked me dead in the eye. Why those flowers? What? I questioned, completely lost. Why did you get me those particular flowers? Oh, because they're the king's favorite, and I thought it'd be nice to have something so beautiful in honor of your dad in the palace. His expression softened briefly, before hardening once again. And how exactly did you come to find that they were his favorite? Well, Dimitri told me when we saw them on our hike yesterday. Oh, so you went hiking with him too. Is there anything you haven't done with my cousin? With that, I yanked my arm away from his grasp. What's that supposed to mean? If there's something you want to know, just ask it. I can't do this. Not today, he said, going to sit on the nearby bench. I stared in shock. He was being such an ass, but for some reason, I wanted nothing more than to be with him and attempt to cheer him up, seeing him looking so sad. So, I sucked in a deep breath and marched over to him. Yes, you can do this, and today is perfect, I said, kneeling down between his legs. Without a word, he looked the other way. I'm assuming your remark was insinuating that there's something going on between Dimitri and myself? If so, let's lay that theory to rest right here and now. We were friends growing up. In my preteen and early teenage years, he was one of the few guys that my parents allowed me to spend time with. He was one of the few guys that never tried making a move on me. He was older, strong, and knew how to fight, so they knew that I was safe when I was with him. Not to mention, he completely kissed their butts. In fact, there was this one time that my mom bribed him to bake with her in exchange for one of her pies that he loved. I came home to find them in the kitchen, with him wearing my apron. He is not just one of my best friends, but a lot like the brother that I never had. When he and his family moved, we kept in touch often at first. However, over the last few years, it trickled down to no more than birthdays and holidays, so nothing ever happened in the romantic sense. He nodded, yet remained looking in the opposite direction. Is that why you've been acting so distant and cold? That night that we stayed up talking? I really like that version of you. How do I get him back? I questioned playfully. He looked at me shocked. What? I questioned. Good Lord, did this man not know how to speak? I've treated you very poorly, yet here you are. Yeah, I'm well aware. I'm starting to think there might be something wrong with me, too. Apparently, I don't know how to take a hint, I said, attempting to joke it off. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm the one that's been a fool. I understand if you're unable to forgive me. Well, if that's your way of apologizing, it could use a little work, I scoffed. Okay, how about this? I apologize for the way I've acted and promise not only to do my best to make it up to you, but not to let it happen again. Oh, in that case, I guess I can work on trying to forgive you, I teased. I was both shocked and relieved when he pulled me into a tight hug. In that moment, I knew I was in trouble. There was no denying how right it felt, or how much I loved being in his arms. Chapter 7. Will you take a walk with me? Of course, I replied. I had a feeling I knew where we were heading. We made our way over to the little side trail and over to the king's grave. His eyes darted from the shovel to the small flower bush adorned with the beautiful burgundy and black flowers before coming to rest on me. I thought about getting a bouquet to bring to your father, but then figured, why not, instead of bringing him something that wouldn't last for more than a few days, honor him by planting something that would live. I hope that I haven't overstepped. My heart sunk when he turned away. Perhaps I had overstepped. Eddie? I said questioningly. When he didn't respond, I walked over to him, just as a lone tear escaped his eye. Seeing this, I immediately wrapped my arms around him. He held on to me tightly, as I felt his chest rise and fall. With every shaky breath, I wished there was something I could do. Then it hit me. Maybe this was enough right now. Maybe this is what he needed. So I resolved to hold on to him for as long as he needed, as long as it took until he was ready to pull away. When he finally did, he wiped his face, cleared his throat, and said, "Thank you. Thank you for putting up with me, and thank you for this kind gesture. Will you do me the honor of helping me plant it? I think my father would have wanted us to do it together." "Of course," I said with a smile. In the 20 minutes it took us to do it, we exchanged smiles and flirty little nudges. Finally, we put the last handful of dirt on together. We then stood there, hand in hand for a while, admiring our work and the beauty of the flowers. I know I already said it, but I want you to know that I really mean it. Today was very difficult for me, and I appreciate you being here with me more than you know. Nowhere I would have rather been, I said, giving his hand a little squeeze. Come on, I think it's time that we shared a meal together, he said, still holding my hand and guiding me down the path. I was surprised when he asked the staff to prep the grill and take everything out to the patio. I was even more surprised when he proceeded to grill the steaks. Eddie, Dimitri, and I sat around talking and laughing until late into the night. I was relieved that it finally felt like we were all in a good place. The next day, we had just finished up breakfast, and Jasper cleared his throat, getting our attention. "Announcing Miss Trinity." A strange look appeared on Eddie's face as she entered. She was the exact opposite of me. She was tall, just about the same height as Eddie, who stood at 6'1", had dark hair and chestnut eyes. She was thin, almost to the point that it appeared unhealthy. As her eyes darted to me, she sported a menacing look. "Oh, Eddie, how I missed you," she said, kissing both his cheeks. "Haven't you missed me?" She batted her eyes. With that, Dee linked his arm with mine and pulled me with him over to where they were standing. Eddie glanced at me briefly, flashing me what seemed to be a remorseful smile. It was brief, but just long enough for Trinity to notice. "And who's this?" she scoffed, flicking a finger towards me. "Hi, I'm Stella," I said, extending my hand. She glanced down at my hand like I had the plague. "And what might your business be with my Eddie?" "Your Eddie?" I questioned. When Eddie didn't say anything, I felt a mixture of emotions starting to swirl within me. Yes, that's what I said. Is she hard of hearing or something?" she said sarcastically, looking from Eddie to Dee. "Clearly, I heard you. I'm just confused as to why you would think he was yours," I replied pointedly. I did not like this girl whatsoever, but more than that, I didn't like the fact that Eddie still hadn't spoken up. "Eddie, you need to teach this one some respect," she was starting to say, when he finally cut her off. "That's enough, Trinity." "Excuse me?" she exclaimed, looking shocked. We were both shocked when Dee spoke up next. "Look, I don't know who you are, or how you know the prince, but Stella has been asked to be here, and I will not allow the likes of you to disrespect her." Dee wrapped his arm protectively around me. "I don't know who you think you are, but I come from a very well-off and powerful family, and can easily put you and your little girlfriend in your places," Trinity threatened. Dee laughed, and Eddie finally spoke up. "Trinity, I don't know why you're here, but I will not tolerate you treating my cousin or future wife this way. I would never enter your home disrespecting your guests, and I expect the same from you." "But baby, I'm here to give you a second chance." "Wait, did you say future wife?" she exclaimed, almost fumbling over her words. "What makes you think I'd want another round after I sent you away the first time?" Her eyes bulged with anger. "This is your fault," she said, coming towards me. Dee stepped in front of me, placing his body between mine and hers. Eddie grabbed her hand, pulling her after him, while muttering, "Come on, we need to talk." Chapter 8. Dee and I went out to sit on the porch swing. "You good?" he asked, casually draping his arm over my shoulders. "Honestly, I'm not sure what to think. Who was she?" "If I may," Belinda said, coming to stand beside us. "She's the prince's ex, sort of. Her father was friends with the queen's brother-in-law, or something along those lines. Anyhow, she was invited to the palace and introduced to the prince as a potential bride when he turned 24. She wasn't the first that had been invited to meet the prince, as the queen was intent on finding him someone to have ready to marry as soon as he turned 25. However, in this case, he immediately displayed his taste for her. That didn't stop her from throwing herself at him the entire month-long stay, though. He did well keeping himself quite busy while she was here, and actually ended up seeing very little of her. There was one incident, though, where she attempted to touch the royal jewels, and he lost it. Okay, no touching the royal jewels, noted. You'll have to tell me where they're kept so I can avoid them." With that, she looked at Dee, and they burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" I questioned, baffled. "The royal jewels are located in his pants, love." Dee clued me in. I felt my face turn 100 shades of red. "Oh, God, pretend that I didn't say that," I exclaimed, mortified. Where had my head been? I couldn't believe I hadn't caught on right away. They both continued to chuckle as she continued. At that point, he explained that although she seemed as though she could be a nice girl, he wasn't interested in her romantically whatsoever. Naturally, she took offense and accused him of being a woman-hater and liking men. He pretty much had her pack her things, and she was gone the next day. "Oh, wow, she sounds insane." "She is insane," Belinda corrected. "But if that's the case, why wasn't he quicker to speak up and defend me or be by my side?" "That is an excellent question, which I intend to figure out. Now, if you excuse me, I have some snooping to do," she said, giving me a wink. "Hey, Belinda, just let us know when she's gone, will you?" Dee called out after her. "Will do." "So, what do you think of Eddie?" Dee began to pry. "Oh, I don't know. It seems the minute I think one thing, something happens that leaves me questioning it." I purposely kept my answer vague, Dee had been acting a little different than his usual laid-back, carefree self, and, until I figured out what was up, I didn't want to stir the pot, so to speak. I mean, it very well could have been something as simple as him being protective of me, or a slight bit of awkwardness from coming back into one another's lives in this manner. Whatever it was, I needed to find out before putting too much out there. Gotcha. Things have been pretty crazy lately. Don't worry, things will get better, he said, giving me a little squeeze. After that, we did all sorts of stuff to pass the time, as we awaited Belinda's return to let us know if and when Trinity had left. A game of badminton, a few rounds at the archery range, a picnic, and a short hike later, Belinda still hadn't returned. It was nearing dinner time when she finally appeared. She finally gone? Dee asked as Belinda approached. Sadly, no, but a highlight of my day was getting the opportunity to inform her that I do not work for her, Belinda exclaimed with a smirk. Good for you, I said, proud that she had stood up to her and held her ground. Thanks. You have no idea how good it felt. Oh yeah, dinner's ready. Apparently, she'll be staying for dinner. Hey, is it possible that we get ours out on the patio tonight? Just in order to avoid any further conflict or unpleasant interactions? Dee questioned. Sure. I don't think that should be a problem. Give me a few minutes, Belinda said before disappearing back into the house. We enjoyed dinner on the patio, but I couldn't keep my mind from wandering. What was Eddie doing? Had he had dinner with her? Had he even noticed I wasn't there? Had something changed between the two of them? Oh God, what if it had? What if that's why she was still here? Dee broke me from my train of thought. Come on, he said, extending his hand. He led me to a nearby double lounge chair. We laid back on it and looked up at the stars. Remember when we used to do this when we were younger? He questioned. How could I forget? Look, there's Orion's belt, I said, pointing up. And there's the Little Dipper, he said, pointing not too far from where I had. He then bent over and rummaged through the dinner basket that had been brought to us by Belinda before pulling out a bottle of wine. Would you like a glass? He offered. No thanks, I'm fine. Okay, here. Set it over next to you in case you change your mind. I didn't plan on changing my mind. I needed my head clear right now, especially with everything going on. Yet, set it next to me anyway. It started to get cold, and just like a gentleman, Dee took off his jacket and draped it over the both of us. We talked for a long while before I realized he hadn't said anything for a few moments. Dee? I questioned, looking over, only to discover he had fallen asleep. I was quite tired, too. I'll just rest my eyes for 5 minutes before I wake him and we go inside, I thought to myself, never dreaming I'd actually fall asleep. Next thing I knew, I was awakened by Belinda's frantic voice. Wait, sir, please! It's not what it looks like! My jaw dropped as I watched Belinda chase after Eddie, who was clearly irate. I glanced around, trying to piece together what had happened. As soon as I looked around, I knew exactly how it must have looked to Eddie. Damn it. I had unintentionally done it again. I looked over at Dee, who met my defeated gaze with a similar one plastered on his face. Well, shit. My sentiments exactly, I agreed. Chapter 9. After a shower and getting ready for the day, I figured there was no use trying to find Eddie. I was sure he would be needing some alone time to cool down before I could even attempt to talk to him. I had no idea where Dee had gone off to, but it really didn't matter. I needed to get away from everyone and all the drama for a little bit, and what better place to do that than the library? I wandered the palace for close to 15 minutes before finding the hallway that opened up into the library. Portraits of the royal family lined the walls. As I came into the main corridor, my jaw dropped. Not only because I now found myself standing in front of the prince, who was seated with a journal in hand, but also because I was unable to believe my eyes. The portrait of the couple staring back at me from just above Eddie's head was none other than Uncle Mark and Aunt Annie. Look, I don't want to talk, he started to say. Okay, I muttered mindlessly, still staring in shock at the picture above him. He peeled his gaze away from me and glanced behind him. My parents, he said. Huh? I questioned, not fully listening. Those are my parents, the king and the queen, he said, pointing up at the portrait. Uncle Mark and Aunt Annie? I questioned in complete disbelief. What? No, King Marcellus and Queen Antoinette, he corrected. Yes, I can see that. But I was introduced to them as Uncle Mark and Aunt Annie, I attempted to explain. He cocked his head to the side, looking at me like I was crazy. Okay. Care to elaborate? He said, patting the chair next to him. I sat down next to him and took a deep breath. Well, let's hear it. Okay. It must have been close to 10 years ago now. One weekend, Dee's aunt and uncle were supposed to be coming for a visit, but Dee came down with a really bad flu. Dee's parents didn't want to turn them away after they had traveled so far, but also didn't want them to get sick. My parents offered to let them stay with us for the weekend, and they graciously accepted. We spent the entire 3-day weekend with them, showing them around town, baking, and doing all sorts of stuff. Your mom kept telling me that I had to meet her son someday. She just knew that we had hit it off. Your father kept telling her to quit meddling, although he said he felt that she was right. Before departing, he told me to let Dee know if I ever wanted to come visit their estate and meet their son. I thanked them for their offer and the truly amazing weekend we had all shared together. That was the last I ever saw them. And you never thought of taking them up on their offer? Of course not. I was only 15 and wasn't about to go gallivanting off to meet some random guy, regardless of how amazing his parents were. That would have been far too awkward. Plus, there are plenty of other guys in town, had I been interested, I explained. Ah, that's right. But you weren't interested in those other guys, were you? You had Dimitri, he replied bitterly. You just couldn't even give me a minute to get over the shock that the king and queen had stayed at my house without my realizing it. Okay, you want to do this? Fine. As I told you before, I like to get to know someone before forming any sort of opinion about them. Well, in this case, my opinion has been formed and is clearly one of 3 things. You're either an extremely crappy listener, are just a jealous ass, or simply don't want this to work and are doing anything and everything in your power to make sure of it. Regardless which it is, I'm stuck with the short end of the stick. Your Grace. I snarked as I got up to leave. Not so fast. Sit down. This conversation isn't over, he demanded, his voice dripping with authority. A bit shocked, I sat back down. Look, I'm not mad. I just want you to be honest with me. I walked up to find you cuddled up, asleep, with him under his jacket. The bottle of wine beside you made it apparent you had been drinking. I mean, can you even honestly say that you remember what happened last night? You've got to be kidding me, I muttered under my breath. What? Am I wrong? Tell me if I am, because I'd love to be wrong about that. You are wrong. But what good would my telling you do? You clearly have your mind set. You wouldn't believe me anyway. Try me. Okay, well, first off, we never even opened the wine. What you saw was a sealed bottle. And second, we were out there waiting on you to get rid of your oh-so-charming girlfriend, so you could shed some light on what the whole situation was about. However, you didn't get rid of her, but rather invited her to stay for dinner, and apparently overnight as well. What are you insinuating? Nothing. I'm not you. I don't go assuming things and making accusations. I would like to know why the situation played out like it did, however. It was a moment before he spoke. He appeared to be deep in thought. I had dinner alone in my study. She stayed in one of the many guest rooms. It was too late to leave. It's a full day's trip for her, and the drivers needed light to get home safely. Anything else you want to know? Yes, if that's true, why didn't you just have Belinda or Jasper come get me to join you for dinner in your study? When Belinda came to let me know dinner was ready, she also informed me that you two were having dinner out on the patio together. She did ask if I'd like to join you, but I didn't want to interrupt your date. Our date? Are you serious? You should have joined me for dinner, just like you should have spoken up and defended me right from the start with Trinity. I could say that seemed odd, almost like you didn't want her to know about me, perhaps because you wanted to keep her as an option? I said, hoping that would drive the point home that he was acting like a jerk. So you could play this game. I could play the jealousy card as well. I know, I screwed up. I was embarrassed to have you find out that she had been a potential suitor. I could have, and should have, handled that better. I was shocked at the sincerity in his voice. Well, thank you for acknowledging that. I could see him studying my face. What? I questioned. Nothing. It doesn't seem like nothing. I thought we were going to try working on those communication skills, I sassed. Fine. I just don't know why everything has to be so difficult with you. All right then, have a wonderful day, I said, turning to leave. I heard all I needed to. I didn't need to be insulted further. What happened to communicating? He said, stopping me dead in my tracks. Okay. Ouch. I'm leaving, since I'm so difficult to be around, and because I don't know how many more insults I can endure this morning. He let out a sigh. You've misunderstood me. It was not meant as an insult. I wasn't saying that you were difficult. Just being around you has proven to be. At no fault of yours, however. I don't follow. He shook his head and scoffed. Of course you're going to make me say it. Being around you has made me feel feelings and emotions that I didn't even know I was capable of. Yes, jealousy being one. Look, I really like you, but part of me really doesn't want to, because doing so leaves me vulnerable. This is already a difficult time for me, and honestly, I'm not sure how much more pain I can endure right now. Hearing him say that caused a whirlwind of emotions to swirl within me. I was undoubtedly falling for this man, but was scared too. He must have realized I had been deep in thought as he reached down and put his hand on my shoulder. Hey, this communication thing goes both ways. Sorry, you're right. The truth is, the more I get to know you, the more I find myself caring about you. Being with you, something just feels right, and realizing that I actually knew your parents, it almost feels like fate. But I'm scared too. What happens if this doesn't work out? You've literally plucked me from my life and brought me somewhere I don't know anyone or anything. I guess we're gonna have to trust each other. If we want it bad enough and put in the effort, I have no doubt that we can make it work. But I'm sure Dee wouldn't have a problem taking care of you if things didn't turn out as you had hoped, he teased. I whacked him on his arm for that comment. I was surprised when he caught my arm midair. I am still the prince, and that is going to require punishment, he said, pulling me in so closely that I could feel his breath on my face. I looked at him wide-eyed. He held my gaze as he brushed a loose strand of my hair out of my face. My heart began to race as he leaned closer and pressed his lips against mine. There they were, the sparks you read of in fairy tales. Well, if this is punishment, punish me all you want, I said, unable to hide my smile. He gave a little laugh before pressing his lips to mine once again. Just then, there was a knock, and Dee appeared. Eddie sighed and began to let go of me. However, I tightened my grip on him. He looked at me shocked. I just smiled. Pulling me back in tightly, he looked at Dee. How may I help you, cousin? Oh, I was just coming to explain to you that it wasn't as it looked. Nothing had happened last night, but it seems that my explanation isn't necessary. I'll leave you guys to it, Dee said before hurrying away. Once Dee was gone, Eddie sighed. I'm sorry for misjudging the situation between you two. I suppose you're correct. I'm what did you call me? A jealous ass? Yeah, sorry for calling you that, I said, feeling a little embarrassed that I had spoken to him that way. You weren't wrong. I'll let you get away with calling me that, as long as I'm your jealous ass, he said playfully. I will happily acknowledge you as mine, as long as you acknowledge me as yours, I replied. Done. There's no taking it back now. You are officially mine. He looked at me as if he were waiting for me to protest. What's that look for? I have absolutely no intention of taking it back. Good, he said, kissing me. God, I loved being in his arms. Chapter 10 will be where we start next time. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful night. And stay tuned next week for more Royally Surprised.